Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Dehancer for Capture One. Now, I've already gone ahead and graded some of these images I shot from some of our trips in Italy. So this was a view from the Ponte Vecchia in Florence. And then we have this image. Incidentally, this was the before picture. This was the after. I went through and did a little bit of generative fill on that in Photoshop. And then this is the pre-Dehancer ready to edit image. So let's just quickly jump in because I'm sure you want to see how this filter actually works and how you access it from Capture One. So this is a TIFF file and all you need to do is right click on it and then you go edit with and Dehancer Lightroom plugin. Now don't worry about the fact that it says Dehancer Lightroom plugin. It's the same one for Lightroom as it is for Capture One. So go ahead and click on that. The format Dehancer likes is a TIFF file. So go ahead and edit variation. Then this is the Dehancer photo interface. So as you can see, we are using version 2.3.3. And this is the original file, and this is the last edit I used last time I opened Dehancer. So we'll always remember your last edit, and then we can start scrolling through some of these presets. So if you go up to here where it says presets and then go into all presets, so you'll then be able to just scroll through and see which of these presets you like. Once you dive into this, you'll be able to read about all of the different film emulations and work out what suits your images. So I'm just going to quickly go through these and you can have a look and see how it's applied to this image. So I'm using the arrow keys and I'm nudging down. So just quickly scooting through these until we find something we like. So some of the grain is heavy on others. Obviously there's quite a difference in the variations between these different film looks. So just going down through all of these, you'll get a general idea of what they look like. So if we go back to this image, we can see the film halation effect coming in just here. So that's the red. Now if we scroll down to halation in the parameters here, so if we turn that on and off, you'll see that disappears and reappears. And then if we scroll down to bloom, again, bloom is softening off those edges. And again, these are all things that you wouldn't be able to do inside Capture One with the Capture One styles. So that would be the reason for using a Dehancer photo inside Capture One against using Capture One styles. Let's just go through some of these settings on this particular look, and then you get a general idea of what parameters you can adjust when you use Dehancer yourself. So at the top here we have source, so we can then just adjust the compensation if we need to. And then we have temperature comp, and we have tint comp, we have defringe radius, and we have film dev, contrast boost, gamma correction, color separation, color boost, and we have film compression, we have impact, we have white point, tonal range, color density. Then under that we have expand, black point, white point, and then we have our color mode, normal or luma, selecting normal, and then we have our print setting. So I like to have it on Kodak Endura glossy paper, so we'll leave it at that. And then we can have a little play with these sliders. So there's our exposure, tonal contrast, color density, saturation. Gonna back it off to about there. And then we have color head, magenta and green, cyan and red, shadow tone, midtones, highlight tones, preserve exposure, impact. And then moving down we have film grain. So if we turn that on and off, you can see that film grain applied. Then you can back off on the size of it and the amount. You can work out what works for your style. So film grain shadows, midtones, highlights, and color. And then we have our positive and negative film. Then we have our analog and digital. Digital is currently listed as experimental. So let's go back to analog. And then underneath this, we have halation. Now I do like this and it's very reminiscent of film stock. So there's halation, and then we can just adjust all these parameters and work out what works for you. Someone like that works for this image around there, like that. Blue comp, impact, a little more subtle like that. It's perfect. And then bloom is going to soften off the edge of the highlights. So if we turn bloom on and off, you can then see what it's doing. Underneath bloom, and last but not least, is vignette. We can change our exposure on the vignette. We can increase, decrease the size of it. Then we can feather it. Obviously hard that way, softens it off that way. Then aspect ratio, I think that looks pretty good right there. So that essentially is all the parameters for your adjustments. So once you've gone through and found the correct look for your image, you can then go up to presets and save it. So I'm going to save it as a preset, and I'm going to save that to my system. So I'm going to go into Dehancer, Capture One presets, I'm going to save it there. Now what you can do is you can OK that, and then it will push that image that's been adjusted back into Capture One. This is your edited image. And then if you wanted to edit another image, so let's go to this one. So if I want to edit that with the same style and look, I would right click, edit with Dehancer plugin. create a TIFF, pushes it into the interface, and then you can pull up your own presets from where you save them. And then you have the exact same parameters applied to this image. We'll OK that. So this is the new version inside Capture One. And as you can see, it's the same parameters being applied to this image. So that creates a little bit of continuity if you wanted to do a slideshow or a presentation with your images and retain the same look and feel. Now, let's just go through a few of these other settings. So let's push this one into Dehancer. Incidentally, let's come out of that. So if you want to adjust the exposure, and I think it's best to create a reasonably flat image of when you're pushing it into Dehancer. You can't edit RAWs inside the actual plugin itself, so you have to do all your adjustments prior to exporting it and pulling it into the Dehancer interface. I'm just going to lift those shadows a little bit, right click, edit with Dehancer Lightroom plugin, and then we can just nudge through again all of these different presets and find out what we want with this image. Now, I do like this picture in black and white, so we could go for the Ilford XP2 Super 400. Obviously a lot of grain there, so what we can do is we can back off on the grain if we want, so that looks more like a lower ISO image, something like that. Could be like a 125 or something, and then we'll OK that and it comes back into Capture One. So that's our new image. So here's a few other images that I've worked on with Dehancer. So here's before, here was after, here was before, here is edited version. So I took out the crane and there were some people in the background. Then here is the graded version. And then we have this landscape shot from our trip last week. And that pretty much concludes the Dehancer plugin for Capture One. I do have a discount code, 10% off if you're interested. I'll put that somewhere on the screen now so you can use that if you're interested in buying the plugin. That's it for today's video. Please give me a like if this was of some use to you, and consider subscribing and ring that bell if you'd like to be notified of future videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.